Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. It's summertime, which means it's caddis time. And what I'm going to tie for you today is really just an offshoot of Gary LaFontaine's famous deep sparkle pupa. This incorporates a few glass beads, an antron shuck, and just a little bit of a peacock collar. For the hook, I like one of two different hooks, the Daiichi 1150 or the TMC 206. I just like the shape of that hook when I'm using beads. Going to be using some GSP 50 denier to show you how to use it. It's a very slick thread, can be difficult to get started. For the body, just some small tires, glass beads. These happen to be iridescent Caddis green. One of our prominent caddis flies here in Montana and western U.S. is called the Rhynchophilia. It's the free-living caddis. The larva does not build a case until it's time to pupate, and it's carnivorous. So it actually is moving around the rocks, eating mayfly nymphs, midge pupa, lots of things. So it's available. The trout see it a lot. It's also in the drift commonly. So it's a fly, that bright green color is something that you want to imitate. For the actual shuck, I'm going to be using this clear sparkle yarn, which Gary LaFontaine brought to those fly tires. For the body, I'm going to be using touch dubbing with some Double Magic Dub from Al and Gretchen Beatty, and Wonder Wax, which is a super sticky wax. Before I get started, I want to show you a little trick. I've had problems for years with Zap-A-Gap. Now, I can't help you with the drip bottle. That always freezes up on me, and I'm always throwing it away. But if you buy the one with the brush, when you buy a new one, simply get some Vaseline, KY, anything like that. I've even used some silicone gun grease, and just wipe it around the threads. Rotate your cap in and out a couple of times to distribute that within those threads, and that cap will never freeze on you. You'll be able to use that bottle all the way down to the end. Okay, so I've gone ahead and pre-threaded 3 of these glass beads, and this is the TMC 206 BL and 14. You want to make sure that you don't try to put too many beads on here. You still have to have room for the head, for the tie-off, for a lot of different things. So take it easy on the beads. The beads are just there to accentuate a little bit of sparkle on the body. Now, GSP is great thread. It's very, very strong thread. It's the strongest type of thread that we have available. It's also extremely slick. So it can be difficult to start. It can be difficult to get it to hold. So what I recommend is that you just put just a tiny bit of Zap-A-Gap where you're going to start your thread. Wrap back over it. When you cut GSP, this is the stuff that bulletproof vests are made out of. It does not like to be sheared. That's why it's for that materials, much like Kevlar. To cut it, just use one blade of a sharp scissor and just slice it. Let that set for a second. Make sure I don't have my beads glued down. For my shuck, I'm using this sparkly merger yarn, clear. I don't need a full piece of yarn for a fly this size. I'm just going to divide it in half, like so. Now it's important to comb this stuff out. So I'm just using, basically, is a bone comb. The reason I'm using bone instead of plastic is that bone does not add static. When you wrap plastic against plastic, you build static electricity, and now this stuff is frayed, going all over the place and driving you nuts. So that's where a bone comb comes in handy, and we do have them here. You can really apply your antron side by side, top to bottom. I've also done a video on the ghost pupa where I used a different material and just wrapped it around the side. All of it works. What you're trying to do is you're trying to build a sheath that will entrain air bubbles, and that simulates the emerging caddis pupa. So I'll tie this in long. I'm going to use a side-by-side. Well, no. It says I'm going to use a top and bottom, so that's what I'm going to do. Slide this down, a couple of thread wraps to secure it, and come back. That residual zap-a-gap on there will also help. We just want to keep this thin enough so that we can slide our bead back over it, okay? So, since it wants to go top and bottom, that's what we'll do. This is the same half strand. Once again, just kind of square up the tips a little bit.
Most of my staff does.
Tie it in long.
It's a big deal. It's a big thing to people.
Slide it back. And tie it down. Okay. So we're going to divide it side by side here. Like that. Now I'm going to be using some touch dub for the dubbing, and all it takes is the right type of dubbing and a good sticky dubbing wax. This is Overton's Wonder Wax. Different companies have different dubbing waxes out there. Nothing against Wapsi, but I personally don't like Wapsi dubbing wax. It's a petroleum-based wax. It's very, very greasy, and it just does not seem to do the job. Whereas Overton's, Hairline, BT's, the same folks who make this Double Magic, they use beeswax as a base. Just make sure you don't have very much wax sticking out of the top of your tube. If you have it very tall, when you swipe your thread, you're going to have clumps of wax, which you don't want. So I'm just going to make a couple of passes here, front and back. It should be thin enough where you really can't see it. And this dubbing is not going to be very thick either. And that's not that. The intent is to keep this illusional, nice and minimal. Simply just dot this on. And then I'm going to start wrapping it forward and in between the beads. So a couple of wraps back here. Slide one bead back. A couple of wraps in between that. Slide the other one back. A couple of wraps there. Slide the last one back. Just like that. That's exactly what you want. Then I'm going to pull my Antron. Forward. Pull the other side forward. And then you can use a bodkin. Simply get in there and just make a bit of a sheath. Just a bit of a bubble. It slides very easily. Try to distribute it around a little bit. You can always slide it back and tighten it. Okay. And then I'm just going to use a single piece of Peacock. You could use some dubbing if you prefer. But Peacock is hard for fish to resist. To get the most out of your Peacock, or if you're using ostrich, the same thing. The quill does not grow out from the sides like chicken hackle does. It grows out in a Y shape. To get the most out of the hackle, you want to wrap it so that the hackle is facing back, the bare quill is facing forward. So as you wrap, each wrap of hackle covers the quill of the previous wrap. It also allows you for a much cleaner tie-in. So we tie it in with the hackle facing back. And wrap like this. Hopefully you can see that. You can see the angle of the hackle. It's facing backwards. It really maximizes the look of the hackle. Tie that off and finish it up here. If I was tying a bigger fly, I'd use a couple of pieces of Peacock, but one is enough for this size. So this looks a little disorderly. That's the way it's supposed to look. We want this to entrain air bubbles. We want this to have some movement underwater. All these little fibers will capture air bubbles, and we want this to look like a rising, emerging caddisfly. Now these Rhynchophilias, we have 41 species in Montana. They emerge all summer long on all of our western rivers. So tie a bright green caddis pupa and go have some fun. We'll see you next time.